From the Canary Islands, Christopher Columbus and his crew of 88 men embarked on a daring expedition across the vast North Atlantic Ocean. Their 3 sailing ships, the Santa Maria, the Nina, and the Pinta, set sail on August the 3rd, 1492. Their destination, India. Little did they know that the journey would lead to the discovery of new islands and the beginning of the exploration of the Americas. After a 10-week voyage, on what is believed to be October the 12th, 1492, Rodrigo, one of Columbus' crew members, spotted a reflection of the moon on the white sandy beaches of an island. However, it was Columbus who claimed to have seen a light the evening before, and thus received the reward, a yearly pension of 10,000 maravedis for life. This sparked a dispute among the crew members. Rodrigo: "Captain Columbus, I see a reflection of the moon on the white sand. Land must be nearby." Columbus: "Ah, Rodrigo, my friend, that is indeed a good sign. But let it be known that I spotted a light in the distance the previous evening. The reward is mine to keep." Although Columbus aimed to reach India, he found himself in the Caribbean islands. The native inhabitants, Arawak Indians, were curious and approached the Spanish ships. They greeted Columbus and his men with food, water, and gifts, displaying their warm hospitality. Columbus saw an opportunity to exploit the Arawaks and assess their strengths. Columbus: "These people seem welcoming. Let us go ashore and see what this land has to offer." Columbus and his men disembarked from their ships. Realizing the potential for wealth, Columbus became determined to find gold. His main task was to enrich Spain, and he held high hopes of bringing back a significant amount of gold and perhaps spices back to Spain. He would profit vastly, as the revenue split was 10% to Columbus of everything he could bring back. With the prospect of riches, Columbus and his men set out to capture the Arawaks, who wore gold ornaments, believing they held the secret to hidden treasures. Driven by his greed, Columbus and his men kidnapped Arawak Indians who possessed gold ornaments. They believed these indigenous people could lead them to the sources of gold in the region. Reluctantly, the Arawak Indians who had been forcefully taken captive became unwilling guides, leading Columbus and his men on their quest for gold. Their knowledge of the region proved invaluable as they navigated the treacherous terrains and guided the expedition to Cuba and Haiti, where the search for gold would intensify. Columbus decided to build a fort named Navidad, using the wreckage of the Santa Maria ship, while leaving a small group of men to guard the fort and collect gold. Columbus and the rest of his crew took Arawak slaves back to Spain. On their journey, they stopped at the Azores before presenting the slaves to the Spanish crown. Columbus, before his departure: "Men, we shall leave a small group here at Fort Navidad to gather gold while we return to Spain with the Arawak slaves. We must convince the Spanish crown that our expedition was successful." Columbus and his crew boarded the ships, leaving behind a small group of men at Fort Navidad. The Arawak slaves, captured for their supposed knowledge of gold sources, were guarded by Spanish soldiers, and the journey back to Spain began. The arrival of Columbus and his slaves pleased the Spanish crown. As a result, a larger second expedition was granted, with 1,200 men and now 70 ships under Columbus' command. Columbus conducted grand slave raids, capturing a significant number of Arawaks. Many of these slaves would die during the voyage, while the survivors were sold or forced into labor. When Christopher Columbus returned to Haiti after returning the Arawak slaves to Spain to get a bigger second expedition, what he came to find was that his men at Fort Navidad had gotten raided by the Indians in Haiti. This occurred after his men had kidnapped children and women as slaves intending to use them for both labor and sex. This was a shock to Columbus, as the local Indians had far weaker weaponry. Progressively, over time, the Arawaks were subjected to extreme cruelty by the Spaniards. They were forced to carry and serve the Spaniards, enduring physical and emotional abuse daily. The Arawak Indians, for the Spaniards, were in essence what slaves in ancient Egypt were to the elite class. In the search for gold, mountains were stripped, mines were dug, and the Arawaks suffered tremendously as they were forced to do all of this. Many died from starvation, overwork, or diseases brought by the Europeans. Some tried to flee, but were hunted down with dogs and horses. A resistance arose in Haiti, and Columbus won it with ease with his new funded army. The punishment for the Arawak survivors that had participated in the resistance would either be hanging if you were lucky, or being burnt alive if you were unlucky. It all depended on the Spaniards' mood at that moment. The Arawak men and women worked tirelessly in the mines. Their bodies weakened by malnutrition and fatigue. Disease ran rampant, claiming the lives of many, with a third of the men dying every 8 to 10 months. On the island of Cuba, Columbus and his men encountered the Taino Indians, the indigenous people of the region. These Taino Indians, like their Arawak counterparts, were forced into servitude and subjected to harsh treatment. Women were made to dig vast plantation areas for crops like cassava, enduring backbreaking labor under the scorching sun every day. The Taino women, already worn down by the harsh conditions, suffered greatly as they were forced to labor in the plantations in Cuba. While their men were exploited in the mines, they were exploited to create farmland for the benefit of the Spanish colonizers. Columbus' actions, driven by his greed and ambition, left a devastating legacy for the Taino people and other indigenous populations. The exploitation, enslavement, and mistreatment they endured resulted in the decimation of their communities. Disease, violence, and forced labor took a heavy toll, leading to halving their population in just 2 years. Taino Elder, our once thriving village, are now ghostly remnants of our past. Our people, once numerous, have been reduced to mere shadows. The arrival of the Spaniards has brought us nothing but suffering and despair. The fate of the Taino people, like that of the Arawaks, was a tragic one. It is estimated that millions of indigenous people perished due to Columbus' expeditions and the subsequent Spanish colonization of the Americas and the Caribbean archipelago. Their cultures, languages, and way of life were forever altered, and their suffering serves as a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of colonization. The story of Columbus' arrival in the Caribbean and the subsequent treatment of the Arawak and Taino Indians is a painful chapter in history. It highlights the profound impact that European colonization had on indigenous populations, resulting in immeasurable loss and suffering. For more interesting stories about impactful history, consider subscribing so you don't miss the next video. Thank you for watching this video.